How are you using AI in your product business and what is its potential to help you work more productively? These are some of the topics I'm going to be discussing today with Dean Johnston, who wears many hats, but one of them is an AI consultant. So, Dean, thank you so much for joining me today.
No, you're more than welcome. I am excited to talk about this ever-changing topic.
And and I said before we started recording, obviously I use AI in my own business. I'm definitely not an expert in it, and it is ever changing. And you're very much the process and the systems guy, aren't you? Tell people what you do and what are some of the things that you're doing with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always loved systems and processes back from the traditional days of like spreadsheets and stuff like that, and how we look at workflows, finding more efficiency in those workflows. So it was only kind of natural once AI came along, I was going to be interested. And obviously, it's such an interesting topic for everybody because the way we can leverage it in our businesses is so vast. And I think that's the overwhelming part is how can we sort of narrow that down and actually make it really useful, but also in line with what we're trying to achieve as a brand and also delivering as a customer experience as well.
And Dean, you are in such a good place to talk about this from both sides because although it's a business you've sold in the past, but you have been a product business founder as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So I ran from 2018 to 2021. I ran an online e-commerce store. Well, it was bricks and mortar originally, moved on to e-commerce during the pandemic. So yeah, I know all too well about based businesses. And then I went on to running a fulfillment center. So I've been around product-based businesses my entire working career. And also now I help people with their paid ads that are in product-based businesses. And I also work with them in terms of consulting around AI and how we can meaningfully integrate that into their business too.
And there are so many AI tools out there. What are the ones as a product business you should be using or becoming familiar with?
So I think it's a great question. I get asked it a lot, and I think it's about sort of how can flip the narrative really in terms of like in your product-based business, there'll be similarities amongst everybody, but what is it that you're trying to either streamline or eliminate? That's where I think the real value is. So rather than which is the right tool, it's like what are you wanting that tool to do? Because a lot of the time, I would say start with repetitive tasks. If you are doing something either on a sort of daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, obviously the more higher the frequency, the more leverage this tool is going to give you. And that's where I would start of like, right, what is that task? And then which tool will sort of match that.
And what are the AI options that you've seen that are available then for product businesses that could do those kind of tasks?
So a lot of the things I would recommend come down to there's a few different things. I've got a list here. So when it comes to product-based businesses, I always think look at inventory forecasting, automating reporting, customer service, and you can go through to content creation as well. They're the kind of four areas that are like big kind of leverage. Now, in terms of the tools that I would recommend, ChatGPT, obviously, is a very wide and popular one, and it is so good. And when you actually use ChatGPT in terms of its full potential, and so not just using chats, but actually building custom GPTs within it for specific tasks in your business, that's when you really leverage in it. So that's number one. Number two would be looking at something like N or make.com. So these are very similar to Zapier, which most people will be
Yeah.
familiar with, but they give you a lot more options in terms of what you can connect to, and also you can integrate AI in the steps within it. So if you want a task to be done, so say for example, inventory forecasting, like one of the beginning tasks might be for it to go to Shopify, grab your data. The next task along might be send that to ChatGPT. The next task along will be to then it to email you a summarized report of how your inventory has gone this week. That's just a very simple example, but you can build out these workflows and you can integrate your current tools as well as AI to simplify these things, forecast, reporting, like I say. And you've got more specific tools like for customer support, Gorgeous is a very popular one in the e-commerce space. They're doing really well and they've integrated AI very well into that. I also like the fact that you can use it to draft replies for customers, but they don't actually auto send. So you can still tweak and gain some really sort of personable contact still.
And how Shopify are using AI and how they're bringing that into their business.
So Shopify, their intention at the moment is to look at from a design perspective. So their sort of web-based builder. They're looking to simplify that with AI. So at the moment, the biggest change in sort of recent history for Shopify was the introduction of like sections where you can build sections, drag them and drop them around. And it made it really, really simple to build some really beautiful designs. Whereas now they're looking to use AI so you can almost build from text. And then in addition to that, it'll be producing certain creatives. So if we think about how product shots are, so if you think of like an outline t-shirt, they're looking at ways that they can have it so AI is integrated so it could put that t-shirt on a model, for example, or it can potentially look at video and how they can bring movement into it. So that's what I've seen from what their product roadmap looks like, and that's like where I can see ecom going in general, really.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if there was more. I mean, I know you mentioned there about some forecasting tools, but I think if AI, if you could create, I know that you're very much a whiz and all this kind of stuff. But I think, just better reporting tools for Shopify. I see when I go in there and I'm working with clients, there's definitely a gap I think there in terms of what's available. It would be great if there was more of a like one-stop shop of something from a reporting point of view. So you work with a lot of product businesses with the ad
Mm.
side of the business, and I presume you're working with some product businesses on the AI side of the business as well. How have you seen it help the brands that you've been working with? What have they been able to do and free up now that they're using AI?
So the biggest thing is going to be time because it's actually giving them back the time so they can reallocate that resource. Because we know with product-based businesses, it's really tough. Like overheads are like can make or break because it's just so fine. And being able to get really efficient with their process, obviously their team that they've either existingly got can unlock new capacity to hold either going into commercial or they're going to increase their sort of sales and they can support that without the additional resources required. Or I've worked with one founder recently that's actually looking to take some time back because they've just got a newborn, and it's like, well, I can't balance everything, and I'm going to be off on mat leave, kind of thing. So it's a case of how they handle that, so they still can have the business they love, but get their time back. So it all comes back to leveraging the time and how we can get the gains back through cutting out unnecessary tasks that can be taken away with either AI or automation.
And I suppose looking at the things that you just really don't like doing yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? That is a big one. I think that's where reporting comes in for a lot of people. Like crunching numbers is not why you signed up for the business. You like typically they're creative founders that are like love the product, but this is a necessary evil of running the business. So if we can get AI to, you know, pull that data out through automation and AI to give you tangible insights about what that data is telling you on the business in a summarized format, that's all done in minutes now to a point where before you'd have had to look at the numbers, interpret them yourself, and you probably sat there for half an hour, and been like, I still don't know
Yeah.
anymore.
And how good is it? How intuitive is it? Do you have to really prompt it as to what to look for? Or is it quite intuitive? Does it know what it's doing, essentially, I suppose?
Yeah, so what I would say is if you're wanting to sort of build your, I don't know, virtual finance director, if you like, for your business,
Yeah.
then I would recommend a custom GPT. Now, this is within ChatGPT. Anyone with a paid ChatGPT subscription has access to do this. And essentially, what it is you're giving it's a version of ChatGPT and you can upload supporting information. So you can upload documents about your business goals, what you do, who your customers are, these type of like information. And then what you do is when you upload that data, it's already got context of who you are, what you're trying to do, and the output that you're looking for. So it will give you quite actionable insights that you can go away with, to be honest. You can really get some good answers.
So then you could upload your Shopify reports and say,
Yeah.
explain to me XYZ
This
or.
Exactly. So you can be like, this is last week's data. How does this, work with our goals that we've got in mind? Whether you've got marketing campaigns that are coming up, do they align with where your sales are at right now? What the data's telling you from your customers? You can get it to cross-reference all of this type of information.
And is it that will it be able to spot opportunities for you? So right, if these are my sales, this is my customer. Like you said, you've already put that information. Now I want to make an extra 30K this year
Yeah.
based on what you can see. What are my options? How can I do that? Will it tell you that?
Yeah, so it actually gives you a really good actionable list, and I've done this several times for several different people. And to be fair, they've got some really good answers. And I think because it's like data backed, of like, well, this is your customer data. And when you look at some of the recommendations about creative ways to increase lifetime value, average order value, and it'll even go and have a look at your website and give you recommendations on how to improve your like conversion rate optimization. And you think through those actionable insights, they actually add up to bridge the gap between what you are and where you're going.
Yeah. And is that which tool is that using then? Obviously, your custom chat GBT and then just your Shopify reports.
Yeah, literally. So you can get your data from Shopify. And what I would do is just look at the data that you're feeding it. I mean, you can get it from multiple sources. So you could go into your Meta ads, your Google ads, your Klaviyo,
Yeah.
and you could pull it all together and it would kind of like remodel that for you. But the simplest way would be to just download a Shopify report, build out your custom GPT and upload it. And obviously, because it's chat based, you can go back and forth. If it said something you're not quite sure on, get it to clarify. And
Where is the human element in all of this though?
so this is where I think it needs to reshift. So what we want to do is we want to use AI and automation to sort of remove the bulk on the back end, because that's where a lot of our day is spent. And I think the big thing that's going to happen in like shifting in the world is the need for real connection, like authentically connecting with your customers. So we've seen many founders like build communities now around product-based businesses very successfully. I think that's going to happen more because I think as we become more detached, because everybody's using these sort
Yeah.
of tools, it'll almost reverse of like socially we need more connection. And I think as somebody that's trying to sell a product, if we can show up authentically because we've got more time with our audience because the back end is getting taken care of or a good chunk of it, that's the shift we're going to make.
And if you were new to this, in terms of building a system, what would you say to a brand founder? This is how you start. This is the checklist that you want.
Yeah. So I sort of break this down as simple as possible because, to be honest, this is where it all kind of goes wrong. A lot of people plug things in and then they're like, oh, that bit does that. And then they'll have software coming out their ears, overlapping features, etc. So to sort of break it down real simple is first things first, map your workflows. So I know it's not very interesting or it's not very exciting, but ultimately you can do this in several different ways. You could use like Miro, which is like a whiteboard software. It's free, and you can literally just visually plot it out. You could be more tangible and use post-it notes and type it up after, etc. But basically, once you understand the steps that you're completing on a regular basis through the actions that your business is, you can then identify what you could automate or get AI to assist with. So that's step one is map your workflows.
A question on mapping the workflows then. So,
Yes.
like you were saying, in terms of, would that be every single touch point that you do, every single action that you do as a business and that your team does, like you say, on a regular basis?
Correct. Yeah. So what I would do is to keep it really simple is if you look at kind of like your marketing, so this would be from a campaign idea through to a campaign launch, like what are the core steps that you take? And then offshoot the other way of like, right, how do you complete that step?
Yeah.
Like, what are the touch points along the way? And then essentially, you've got your steps mapped out then of like, right, to do this within the business, these are the core steps and these are how we complete them. That's literally how I would tackle it. That's how we do it when we do an assessment for somebody in terms of where we're going to get
Yeah.
started.
So, first point, map out the workflows. What's after that?
So then we're going to look at, right, where are the repetitive tasks? Like, and where are the sort of data-driven admin tasks? Because they're the easiest ones to pick off from the start. So if there's anything that you're doing on a regular basis, whether it's copying from one piece of software to another, whether it's writing, so if you're drafting replies on a regular basis, if you're researching, so if you're searching online, anything like that, anything that's repetitive and that's like data or written, to be honest, are easy targets. Once you've highlighted those across what you've just mapped out, that's when you would look at starting to look at how we can use that. So it might be a tool would take care of that, or it might be that a workflow automation would take care of that. That's where you would start to kick things off and start either automating or semi-automating that workflow.
And this isn't part of the workflow, but I'm just wondering, is there a way? So I'm a brand founder of a beauty brand. My lead times are quite long. I want to know, without paying for a £10,000 subscription fee of WGSN or paying for, beauty trend websites, how can I find out those things from a macro point of view that are happening in society, or that trend point of view that are then potentially going to affect the products that I'm going to be creating? Is that essentially just prompts you'd be putting into ChatGPT, or is there another AI that can help? Is there another AI that's out there that is looking at those trends and that society side of things to help you then make product decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think my initial response is you can use ChatGPT Deep Research. So this is where it takes a little while to complete. I think it'll go off and it'll be like half an hour or something before it gives you the result. But what that does is it'll go through and it will do a deep dive amongst the internet. And it will look for all of the sort of citations around what's happening. So if you've asked to sort of summarize trends that are happening within a particular niche, it will go off and look for that, look for all the websites that reference it, and then look for the sentiment, the commonalities, patterns, etc., and then come back and give you a kind of summary. And bearing in mind, like ChatGPT has access to the internet, so it can go on TikTok, it can go on
Yeah.
YouTube. So even though it can't watch the video, it can read the transcript of the video. So
Mhm.
it's still got an understanding of what's kind of moving and happening right now. So
Does it
that's
see
where
all
I
the
would,
comments as well?
yeah, so it will link you to where it found this
Right.
information.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can go and verify that for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's like sometimes when I've found things from AI or things have come back from AI, it's like, right, okay, what's the slant on that? What's the slant I want to take on that? Or is that,
Yeah.
I would want to verify it. I don't 100% trust it.
And that's the exact correct mindset. It is a tool that we can use, and I think there is a kind of over trust at the moment of like people are like, oh, well, ChatGPT says, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, just put an asterisk next to that because it's still bridging gaps that may not be there. So it's always good to get it to give you those citations.
And what do you think is next for AI? What do you think the next kind of things that are coming out that are going to be helpful for product businesses?
I think it's going to just integrate on a deeper level. I think we're going to sit, it's going to be interesting to see how people adopt it because if you look at Amazon, for example, they are, in my opinion, have gone too heavy because now you can't even reach customer support like an actual person.
Mhm.
It is AI 100%. And I think that's disconnected and it might work for their business model, but I think that's where as a sort of independent brand, you have the ability to be like, well, actually, we're leveraging it to complete more, but we're still human here. We're still willing to connect and appreciate our customers. So I think it's going to be about how we can be more efficient. I
Mhm.
think that's where it's gonna get. I think it's gonna get really good in terms of imagery and video. So I think content's gonna change massively as we move forward because our ability to launch new campaigns doesn't require us to go have a photo shoot in Ibiza, for
Right. Yeah.
example. We can recreate that very quickly,
Mhm.
and that gives us better testing ability as well when we're launching different products. You might even launch on pre-order and have two different styles launched, and one might make it, one might not. There's
Yeah.
there's lots of different things. that I think we're going to go with. But I think in the very short term, as in the next kind of year or so, it's going to be very much around just getting very good at what it currently does. I know there's a lot of talk about what's next for AI, and a lot of that looks like where it's autonomous in its kind of operation. I personally think we're a way off there yet because we've got to overcome a hurdle of lots of different technology running lots of different ways it's been coded. So it's not inherently easy for it to talk to one another like we can interpret it as a human because it doesn't have critical thinking right now. In terms of product businesses, it's definitely going to be on the efficiency and creative side.
And is there anything else that you want people to take note of or be aware of with AI in product businesses?
I think just don't be scared. I think there's a lot about security and data privacy, and there's some very valid concerns there. And I think there's no at this point, there's no bigger risk at this than what you've already got. Like you've already got software, like Shopify is collecting your data already. So it's only another tool. You just have to do it responsibly. Don't go and upload everybody's address in there. But it's like if you've got unmarked data, like it doesn't mean anything to anybody else out of context. So I think just lean into it a little bit more, even if it's just a case of using ChatGPT, just getting familiar. But it's going to be a tool that's either going to make or break us in terms of like, well, the people that adopt it and that get that efficiency are going to get a competitive edge. So definitely, my tip is to just lean in a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I think, I mean, like I do use it. I do use some different versions, and but I'm not on any pro plans at the moment. But I think what you said
Mm.
about the custom ChatGPT and the deep
Yeah.
research side of things, I know for my own business, they will definitely be something that I would be exploring and looking into. Just, I mean, it just sounds it's going to save so much time.
That's exactly it. I've worked with quite a few service businesses on the consultancy side, and they're just like mind blown when they get the report. Because a typical report for me when I audit somebody's business is like 100 pages, and they'll look at that and they're like, "Yeah, that's how much opportunity is on the surface." I mean, I've just delivered one for a product-based business this Monday, and that was 56 pages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's so much opportunity, and it's like that's going to save hours.
Yeah. And how can people work with you then, Dean, to get to the root of this kind of thing?
So I have the AI Efficiency Hub. That's what I'm branded as. So this is a service that myself and Felicity worked on together. So Felicity is been in operations space for a long time. So we kind of combine with my sort of technical know-how and data software and her kind of expertise there to deliver this service, which is where we will basically review your business and give you a roadmap. So that kind of mapping of your workflows, we take care of stage one for you. So we sort of go through everything, make sure it's all clear. What you can work towards, and then you can self-pace your way through implementing it as well.
Thank you so much, Dean, for coming on and chatting on about AI.
You're more than welcome. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'll be back again next week with another great guest.